Welcome back to the Create Harmony podcast. Let me tell you what we're all about. So, at Create Harmony, we are elevating the pursuit of peacemaking, and we're highlighting the voices of fellow peacemakers. We do that through conversations, listening to their stories, and learning about their simple practices. And that helps us explore the rhythms that really nurture peace within us, peace between us, and in all the communities that we call home. We like to live in step with the rhythms of nature, and we pay attention to the seasons and all of the ways that the seasons shape us. So this summer, we're in the summer season right now, and this summer we're doing a thorough examination of hobbies. We are talking to all sorts of different people about their own hobbies, the hobbies they love, and discussing how the pursuit of these interests is a form of rest and how it can restore us to get back to all the meaningful work that we do in life. Now, one thing I'll mention here is that we've decided to adapt our rhythm of releasing episodes this summer in order to free up some time for our team to explore some of our own hobbies and some more upcoming content. So our episodes usually release every week, but this summer we will drop an episode every other week. And that'll give you a chance to pursue some of your interests this summer in between listening to us. So now let's tune in to our hobby conversation for this week. Welcome back to the Create Harmony podcast, and I am your host, Sally Burlington, and I am so excited today. We are doing a series this summer about hobbies and all sorts of things that people do to sort of uplift their spirits and turn away from the grind of everyday life. And so today we have Brittany Robinson Whitenhill, and she owns a company called Our Backyard, and she's going to talk to us all about gardening and backyards and how we can learn to reconnect with nature and grow things. So welcome, Brittany.
Thank you so much for having me, Sally. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Okay, so tell us about what Our Backyard is all about.
Yes, yes. Well, I will say I love the idea that we are talking about turning just our hobbies in general, because I like to tell people when I started Our Backyard, I turned my hobby into a jobby.
Love that.
I've had a love of gardening ever since I was a little girl. I was always in the garden with my mom. And it was something that organically continued to be a part of my world as I grew up. I was always wanting to be back out in nature and learn just a little bit more about where my food came from. Have had this passion for health and wellness, um, and had gone to school believing that I would become a doctor. And when I started in undergrad, going into hospitals and interning, I was like, you know what? I would love to reach my community before they get to the hospital. And it was through a love of food and growing my own food that I really began to think I can create something that brings me peace, that brings me joy, and that can also feed my community. And so that's where Our Backyard came out of. It is a garden installation design and education organization that really puts people's stories and the power of them connecting back with nature, and connecting to their food sources, and beginning to build a love of gardening. I love to say that I would love to have an organization that allows myself to no longer be in business. If I can reach as many people as I can, then there would be no need for Our Backyard, because I would love to see folks connecting to nature in that way of building their own
I
gardens.
love that. Okay, so you said so many things that I had questions about, but we'll start with
Yeah.
sort of how does the process work? Like when you are meeting with a client, what are the types of things more specifically that you are doing to come alongside new gardeners?
Yeah. So I will say, there are both new and existing gardeners that come to Our Backyard. And I would say for those new gardeners, if they are interested in building a garden for themselves, if they've never, put their hands in the soil, they have an opportunity to meet with me for a consultation where we are able to kind of walk through their own desires and needs and ideas and questions around gardening. And from there, they're able to either design a garden where we do turnkey garden installations, um, or they say, hey, I would love to try this on my own, but would still love some support and help. And I am there to be a garden coach. So clients of mine are able to schedule consultations as well as coaching sessions with me so that they have a little bit of extra support along their garden journeys.
Yeah, I think that's so great because it is a little intimidating. I mean, I like you, love plants, have always been a gardener, have always wanted to grow things. People laugh about, I don't really call myself a gardener, and I'm not sure why, but there's plants everywhere. Like, I
Oh,
love plants.
you're
I've
definitely a gardener,
always,
Sally.
yeah, I guess. I don't know why I don't want to step into those shoes, but anyway, I've always wanted to grow. I mean, having things growing around me is a key to my happiness. So I
Hmm.
really do share that love, but it is intimidating. I mean, we have a backyard garden raised bed area that we had to reboot twice, and it still needs the reboot version still needs some tweaking. So I can see how your resources are so valuable.
Yes. And I so appreciate you lifting that up. I think I hear that a lot of folks either saying, "Oh my gosh, Brittany, I just don't even touch it because I don't have a green thumb." I hear that all the time. Or I'm just so intimidated when I grow something, it just grows out of control. And I think that's why I love what I do is to be able to just bring people more at ease in knowing that we are not growing for perfection. We're not
Mm,
growing to become the next botanical garden in your area. But truly gardening it's a lifestyle change. It is a practice that we're able to say, I'm choosing to slow down, I'm choosing to connect with nature, and I'm choosing to observe. Not sometimes for the sake of experimentation, not necessarily I have to grow this amount of harvest and this amount of pounds of food. And for some folks, that is the case. But I will say overall, just starting from a place of let's just invite nature in. That's my tagline. Invite nature in, see what happens, see what sticks, see what you may not do for the next year, and just move at that pace and see where it takes you.
that is so, I mean, there's just so much wisdom there. So I'd love it if when you were talking before, you said some things about how you help people connect with growing things so that
Mhm.
they benefit their own health and wellness. So I'd love for you to say a little bit more about what that looks like and how that works.
Yeah, there's so many beautiful ways that I like to tap into that. One is often just starting with your own story of how have you already connected with nature. I love asking my clients what has gardening looked like for you in the past. Have you ever spent time in a garden? And I will say it usually is about 90% of the case that there's always a story of my grandma did
Mm,
this, or my aunt, or some like one degree of separation of some sort of connection of I used to do this or I recognize somebody else doing it. And it's always sweet. It's these beautiful, sweet stories that come up, that bring smiles to clients. So that's one point of connection is how are we tracing it back to your own lineage and the generations that were before you and the wisdoms that they brought in their own practices of gardening, the ways that they slowed down, the ways that they just chose rest as as resistance to continually working. There's so many beautiful stories that come from that. And then it's the education piece. I'm truly like a teacher at heart. I love I love just diving into the questions that my clients have and just starting that from that point to kind of walk through these experiential learning moments where we're actually in the yard and we're putting our hands in the soil and we're cutting back some of the herbs and we're talking about those things as we're kind of gardening and journeying together. And then from another education standpoint, I love doing workshops. So where we're able to dive into some of the medicinal properties of the plants that we're working with, some of the ancestral wisdoms that the a lot of just communities have had from past generations of how they've utilized herbs to support their own wellness, to support their own um, communities with the things that they needed and how we can utilize those wisdoms to help us now. Yeah, those are some of the ways that I enjoy truly like bringing people back to that invitation of connecting
I
with
love
nature.
that. Yeah. We have, when you were talking about my grandma, I have a story like that, that we have a rose bush in our backyard that my grandfather gave to my grandmother at some point near their anniversary. And that rose, we tried to calculate when it happened, and I think it's about 60 years old. So the rose
Oh, wow.
lived at my grandparents' house, and it would bloom every year around their anniversary, which was in May. And
Mm.
then it moved to a property that my parents had. And then this year it came to live at our house. And I put it in a pot, which might not have been the right choice, but it was in the pot. And at first it just looked like a stick, really.
Oh.
And I thought, oh, well, I've killed this 60-year-old rose. But I am pleased to report that it revived itself and it
Oh,
has grown and it
beautiful.
did bloom. Not right in May. It wasn't quite on time, but close. So
Oh, that's
maybe next
beautiful.
May. Yeah.
Oh, that's see, I love these are the stories that I'm like, yes, hold on to those stories. And it's so beautiful that there's so many stories that the plants teach us ourselves. There have
Yeah.
been many times where a lot of my clients are like, everything's dead. And I'm like, you always have to look what is beneath the surface because I guarantee you that most of your plants that you think are dead are still living. But we
Mhm.
just, there's ways in which we can, we can learn from some of those own wisdoms. That the plants tell
Yeah.
us. Mhm.
So what are some of the more frequent questions you get from your clients? What are things that come up a lot?
Ooh,
There's so
often it's
many
like, "Can
questions.
I" yeah. It's like often it's like, "Can I keep this garden alive?"
Yes. Yes.
I do get a lot of seasonal questions. So, like, what
Okay.
can I grow? What can I grow when?
Right.
If I've planted the correct plants for the correct season that we're in. Um, what you know what is too much like for and I think that there's a beautiful movement that is happening where there's a lot more people that are coming back to gardening.
Mm.
But for some of my first time gardeners, they will often say, hey, I bought 100 grow bags and I'm ready to build a food forest. And so there's questions like, how do I do it? And I was like, okay, well, let's start small. Let, let's start with 4 of those and
Right.
see where we grow from there.
Right.
Um, so I think there's always a conversation of like where am I planting? Am I planting the correct things? And then how much?
Yeah.
Um, because that can often that can deter folks from continuing to garden if they feel like it's beyond their capacity.
Mhm. Okay, so here's a question for you.
Hmm.
I have in a rebooted version of our raised bed gardens, I have put lots of tomatoes and they're still producing, and
Hmm.
some cucumbers, some cantaloupe, some squash. So the cucumbers and the squash are sort of done with they've had their moment and it was
Hmm.
great, and they're
Yeah.
sort of done. So do I take them out and try something I mean, like, what would be a midsummer something to do?
Oh, yeah. No, that's a really good question. So, for a gardener that is interested in doing some seed saving, there are always opportunities if you wanted to have some of your plants go to seed.
Okay.
And those are for the gardeners that are like, yeah, I would love to save these seeds and see if that's something that I can, think about starting for a following warm or hot season. So there's that option. Um, and remind me, that was squash, you said,
Squash and cucumbers are what
and
have
cucumber.
tomatoes are still going, and the cantaloupe is just getting started. So, but the squash and the cucumbers, it's pretty, but there's no more.
Yeah. Yes,
There's no more
yes.
fruit.
Okay, yeah, so there's always the leave it there, allow for, some of the other nature, to enjoy. But when it starts getting to a point of where, things are starting to rot on the vine, I don't recommend that unless you're like sending everything into compost. So,
Okay.
um, if you would love to take that out and start to prepare for fall, you can do that. Thinking
Okay.
it's a little hot right now, and depending like where we're at right now with this whole drought, it could be
Mm,
something where you're like, let's wait to start some of our fall vegetables. But if you are into fall like growing, there are some veggies that you can start. I'd say August is around the time that I like to start thinking about, okay, what are my fall vegetables? Like my brassicas, and then also like, cauliflower, broccoli, the Brussels sprouts. So those types of plants you're going to want to start indoors, and then from there you can say, okay, this would be something that I would place out once the temperatures cool down a little bit more.
okay. Do
Yep.
you grow things more from seed than you do from buying the plants, or both?
It's a little bit of both, and especially for me, with a garden, as I am tending to others' gardens,
Mm,
I
mhm.
often I go the route of what is easy with me also being a mom of 2 young ones.
Right.
I've done a little bit of both. There are some, plants that I'm like, if I don't have the time to grow by seed, I will definitely purchase transplants, and I always am asking, local nurseries as well as, I have some relationships with farmers. What are the growing practices? Because that is a huge part of how I grow, and then also when I am installing other gardens, we always take organic practices. It doesn't necessarily have to be organically certified, but we
Right. As
are.
close as you
Yes.
can. Mhm.
As much as we can. And so for me, it's a little bit of both. I do both seeds and transplants. But there are plants that I do recommend that I would say don't go out and buy a transplant. Definitely seed. Um, a lot of our salad greens, you'll see at
Okay.
nurseries, there's these, beautiful, bowls of salad greens. I'm like, that can easily put those in the ground, you will see sprouts within a few weeks. So that for me that's one example of where I would say just go ahead and buy the seeds.
Okay. I don't have all that much luck with growing things from seed. That I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I can get a good little microgreen going, and then somewhere along the line, it doesn't go from a microgreen to a plant, but
Okay.
I'm missing a step somewhere.
Well, that's why I'm here to always help.
That's right. I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
doing wrong, but I can't quite get there. But anyway, um, I know that you also do one of the parts of your job is that you do these types of gardens in commercial applications as well. Isn't that
Mhm.
right? Tell us
Yes,
about that.
yes. Yes. So just from my time outside of me being a gardener, I was in the nonprofit space for a long time, and had worked with some wonderful organizations, also as a consultant, worked with wonderful organizations where you could also see from a company culture standpoint, folks get tired. They can often get burnt out. And I knew when I started our backyard, that was an offering that I wanted to bring back into workplaces is a different take on wellness, what it looks like to invite nature in when you are at your workspace, when you are at your desk. What does it look like to take a pause, and allow nature to breathe into you? And so I have partnered with organizations where I come in and install edible gardens, and then we build wellness programming around those gardens. And for some organizations, they don't have that access to have a edible garden in their space, but I still come in and support with wellness workshops. With me having an herbalism background, and skill set, I also am very, very mindful of how to pair company culture with some of the practices, the wellness practices, and the values that that company is wanting to uplift and support. I will integrate wellness workshops around that, as well as just we want our people well. The more that they're well, the more that they are able to pour into the work that they're excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so if a company was thinking about doing something like this, what would they need to have in order for that? You can work in any circumstance, or they need to have outside access, or what do they need?
Yeah, I think it is. there's two, I guess, two invitations. So if a company is saying, "Yes, Brittany, please come in and, support us with bringing a garden to our space," um, I would definitely say, like, if they have access to sun, light, yeah, so the light and water, we can do a lot with that.
Mhm.
I would also say just, I think buy-in is important, and that can definitely be built over time, but there does have to be someone that is still being able to champion the work,
Mm.
and that the company is excited about this as a potential offering. Now that of course can be built over time, but I think that there is at least an invitation to towards that value that's important. Um, but yes, as long as that there's I would say light and space for something to grow and we've got some access to water. I've done I'm sorry, indoor installations as well as outdoor.
Oh,
So
cool.
definite opportunity there. And then if none of that for an edible garden standpoint, if they're like, we don't have access to any of that, our team is virtual, say,
Mhm.
then I am always available for workshops and incorporating workshops within a team's wellness plan.
So, are your workshops typically in person or are they virtual or both?
Both. Yes, I've
Okay,
done both.
awesome. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I know that you are also local to Raleigh as we are, but I didn't know if it's available beyond the scope of just
Yes.
Raleigh.
Yes,
Okay.
I have done virtual workshops. I love just creating more accessibility. I will also say there's nothing like an in-person meetup. Um,
Mhm.
and just the exchange that happens not only just amongst, the w- the learnings, but also just with one another when we're able to have that opportunity to kind of dive into herbalism in that way. I think it's magical.
Okay, I want you to say more about herbalism. What does herbalism mean to you? Because
Mhm.
we might want to make sure we've defined that, and just how do you weave that in?
Yes. So I feel like herbalism, you're right. There are plenty of definitions, but the way that I would define herbalism, it's a study of plants it's connected to your wellness. However, the my definition and what I have been trained in has been um, truly connected. It's a holistic practice. So it is not just looking at your health and wellness from a symptom, but it is looking at the entire body, the entire whole person to then create a remedy or a an offering that truly is connected to plant and person connecting in that way. And a lot of my studies have also been rooted in Afro-Indigenous medicine, so it is truly paying honor and respect to just the practices that, um, yeah, that have gone before us, and being able to educate folks on where these practices have been rooted and where they come from.
Or what's your favorite go-to herb? If
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I have a lot of beautiful herbs that I love to work with. One is it can be always found in our kitchen, cinnamon. Cinnamon is a beautiful herb, that has been found across cultures, and I mean we've seen that too, just in cuisines, but a lot of historical uses from like working with your own energetics. So for someone that may have like a little bit more of a cooler energy, and I'll say like cooler energetics kind of looks like someone that may be always cold all the time, or
okay,
are always needing a blanket, or are yeah, are typically a little bit more um, like reserved, not necessarily like a fiery energy that's like out and shout, and
mhm,
loud.
mhm.
Um, so for someone that is a little bit more cool, if they're like if if they are wanting to kind of ignite a fire or a flame, I would recommend cinnamon as an herb to kind of give them a little bit more ignition and igniting some of the fire that is within. Um, to either, if it's that they're trying. for example, for I would say, as we're talking about like some of my commercial offerings, if it's like somebody that is looking to really like bring a new offering to their job, and they have a little bit more of a cooler energy, and they're like, oh, but I need a little bit more fire to get myself excited about the work and to present.
Mm.
I would that would be an herb that we would explore as an offering. So yeah, that
Oh,
is
I love that. I love
love
that.
love some cinnamon.
I
Yeah.
love cinnamon as well. I use cinnamon a lot. I'm a few steps towards the ADHD spectrum,
Yeah.
and sometimes when I need stimulation, but I don't
Mhm.
want to eat something. I have learned that if I have some cinnamon tea, that will it's like a
Yes.
workaround,
Yes,
So
yes. I don't know
maybe a
if you
little
have
cinnamon
tried
tea.
ginger cinnamon tea.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
That would be
yeah,
good.
that is one that I love, especially around like cold flu season. A great one just for like overall immune support.
Mhm.
Yeah, so some fresh ginger, as well as like a cinnamon bark, and just allowing that to steep. And talking about the aromatics in your house, oh, beautiful.
Oh, yeah. That's very warm and cozy. I
It
love that.
is, yes,
That's
yes,
those are the things that we need to be thinking during these hot summer days, is thinking about the days that we're going to want some warm and cozy drinks
right, right.
at some
Agree.
point. So, yeah. Okay, well, is I always like to ask my guests if there is anything in our conversation that we have missed that you can highlight about the things that you do. Is there anything we missed
Hmm.
that sort of sums you up or
Yeah, I would say if there's ever any opportunity that folks would love to learn more about what I do, they're always happy to reach out. I am consistently doing some offerings for my community with workshops, public facing workshops, so they can connect with me on my website. Um, but Sally, outside of that, I'm not sure. I feel like we've had some beautiful conversation today.
I love it. Okay, I do want to circle back to what are some examples of workshops that you teach? That let's talk about that just a little bit more before we finish up.
Yes, yes, and we can actually kind of lift up some of the workshops that are happening this week.
Yes, let's do.
Yeah, one workshop is it's a virtual offering called Soul to Soul, and we were talking about what our feet tell us, um,
Mhm.
in terms of with like Chinese traditional medicine, as well as a lot of Afro Indigenous practices, Ayurvedic. I mean, there's a lot of um, wonderful, just you can see so much. There's richness in looking at our feet that will tell us
Mm,
what's happening holistically in our body. And so we're myself and my an herbalist friend of mine, Kayla Deans, we're co-hosting a workshop called Soul to Soul to really work through just what our feet tell us, and some of the herbal remedies that come along with keeping our feet healthy.
I love that.
Yeah, so
Okay,
that's
so
fun.
if someone like asking for a friend, if someone's feet are very tough, but maybe not the most moist, you would say what?
Yeah.
What does that say about feet?
Yeah, I mean, there that would be like that would require like a whole consultation. And
Okay,
again, like
I hear you.
that goes back to herbalism, is
Mhm.
there would be a list of questions that we would talk about, like
Interesting.
what are we eating? What do daily practices look like? Are we getting enough sleep? We'll talk a little bit about your energetics. We will talk about family history. We'll talk about like day-to-day activities. What does that look like? To get a overall picture of what is occurring, and from there, that is where we pull in some of the plant allies, like which
Okay.
plants make most sense for this particular um yeah, for this particular person in their whole sense, as much as and I'm sure there are questions that we can continue to ask, but herbalists are always, if there is ever a herbalist that is not asking holistic questions, that's when we have to say,
Yeah, that's
Yes.
necessary. Yeah,
Yes,
I
yes,
love
yes.
that. And so
Mhm.
then what are some other examples of workshops that you
Oh,
teach?
yes, yes, yes. So, I have a lovely partnership with the Urban Community Agronomics. They are a farm in Durham, and we've been running a garden series called Gardeners as Teachers, and we're lifting up both herbalism as well as garden skills. And
Mhm.
this class that's going to be happening on Saturday is one around how we are able to take some of the harvests from this beautiful summer season and the herbs and the abundance of what we're getting, and to preserve some of those herbs for medicinal benefits as well as culinary benefits. So we'll be
Mm,
making compound butters. We'll be talking about the difference between when we can use dried versus fresh herbs in some of our infusions, some of the oil infusions. So yeah, we'll be lifting up different types of ways that we can preserve herbs for culinary delights as well as for medicinal purposes. So that's another one. I have done some, I'll say, intuitive herbalism classes where we really tap into our own senses to learn about the properties of herbs that go beyond culinary uses.
mm,
And those classes are always amazing. Where every time I do them, it's amazing at how much when folks tap into their own intuition, we know a lot. We are connected to nature in ways that people are actually astounded. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know that I felt this."
yeah, yeah.
um, so those are other classes that I have done. I've done classes on edible landscaping, how
Mm,
to start your own edible landscape or edible food forest. What are the techniques and processes that one can embark on to do that? So yeah, there's lots of ranges.
so many good ideas. I love that. I was like, "Oh, I want that. I wanna do that. I wanna do that."
Yes,
And so
please, please,
I
please
need to get into
come.
these classes. So if somebody is interested in workshops, then is your website the best
My
thing?
website is the best place to come visit. It's www.our-backyard.org. And from
Okay.
there, you're able to look and find our workshops and events on the
Okay.
homepage.
I will also put that in the show notes so that people can find you because you have so much to offer. And I mean, in this one conversation, I was like, oh, I want to know about this for me, like questions that I
Yes,
personally have that I would,
absolutely.
you know, need some more guidance on. So this is so exciting. I love it. And thank
Oh,
you.
thank
You're being such a great to circle back to the very beginning of the conversation, not only do you make gardening more accessible and not as intimidating, you also are bringing up so much that it, like you said, is intuitive in us that we've somehow forgotten as
you.
we've become
Yeah.
more, as I like to say, device forward as a culture or machine forward. Just
Hmm.
and I always say I love those machines. I do want to wash my dishes in the dishwasher,
Right.
and I
And
want to remember the intuitive knowledge
mhm.
that's within me. So I think you're doing a great job of invoking that.
Oh, thank you so much, Sally. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're a great guide for us to remember that in ourselves and to weave that into our lives, which is totally what we're about. Because all of our conversations here are about how to bring more peaceful living into
Hmm.
our lives. And you even mentioned that these
Yes.
practices are a practice of slowing down, of being with nature and inviting nature in to
Yes.
your
And I
realm.
and I will say, if you're saying, like, if there's one more thing to add, and especially on that note of how do we bring more peace into our lives, I think I encourage for those, and for some of us that are, our listeners, they may already be doing this, of going out and just taking a pause to take your socks and your shoes off and ground yourself on the ground and just take a moment to take some deep breaths. Um, or take a walk and just sit by a tree and just notice it, or a plant. There's so much that our our creation has to teach us. The plant world has to teach us. And if we slow down and just take a moment to pause, you will find peace in that moment.
Yes. I love that. And it made me think, I thought about this several times while you were talking, that one of my peace practices with my own backyard or garden is that I go out. We have
a well for our irrigation. So
Hmm.
we're not affected if we have a drought. So I go out and spray down all of the plants every day
Oh,
because we have an issue with little white flies. And if I spray them down, the white flies don't like that and they'll go somewhere else. So it's a
true.
natural way for me to deter them and I don't have to use pesticides. That's how it started. But then
Uh-huh.
it ended up becoming one of my peace practices
Mm.
that I'm like, oh, I got to go out here and spray all the, just seeing the water getting on the plants and it makes everything feel so fresh and it's just quiet and I just love it.
Yes.
So
Oh, that's
that's what it made me
beautiful.
think of.
Yes, the more that we can create rituals like that in our lives, the better.
Right. Right. There's really something to it. I did not realize, or maybe I didn't know that I knew that this was going to be a ritual for my peace. I thought it was going to be something that kept the white flies away, but it ended up being both.
Right.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
When a chore becomes a ritual, it's like, oh,
Yes.
beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, thank you so much, Brittany. This has just been a wonderful conversation. I know people are going to be inspired to just look at their gardens with a slightly different lens after hearing what you've had to say.
Oh, thank you so
Thank you.
much, Sally, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
As we close today, I hope that you will make a little space this week for something that brings you delight. Not because you're trying to accomplish something or become an expert, but simply because it makes you feel more alive. And hobbies are like that. We've been talking about hobbies throughout this summer season, and they have a quiet way of reminding us who we are beyond all of the to-do lists we make. They invite us into wonder, they remind us how to play, how to create, but mostly they help us know how to rest. Whether you're tending a garden or working on a puzzle, whether you're rock climbing, camping, whatever your hobby of choice, you can simply use these moments to become places of peace. Thank you for spending this time with us today. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, would you pass it to a friend so that more people can learn about us? Would you maybe write a review about our podcast so that it makes it easier for people to find out about our conversations of peace? And until next time, may you find beauty in the ordinary things. May you make room for simple pleasures, and remember that a peaceful life is built one small intentional choice at a time. And until next time, peace.